guys, it's Annie Margarita Yang with AnnieYangFinancial.com. Today, I'm going to discuss how you can maintain motivation to achieve your long-term financial goals. Now, the process of setting goals, especially SMART goals for your finances, is actually extremely simple. I find that that's not the issue that a lot of people have. Following the process of setting goals is actually very simple. Most people can do that, but the actual follow-through and actually achieving it is difficult because a lot of people, they have motivation in the beginning, but then after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, their motivation kind of just like fizzles out and it's like, I give up, whatever. So I want to address this issue. And I've been thinking about this issue quite a bit because every time I've set a financial goal, I've never really had that motivation fizzle out. I was trying to think about what is it that's really like going through my mind so that I always have motivation. I never lose motivation when I have financial goals that I want to achieve. And why is that? And I've been thinking and reflecting long and hard about this. And I think it's because I get extremely emotional. If you knew me in person, and you're really close to me, you would know that my emotions are like a roller coaster. They're extreme. If I'm happy, I'm extremely happy. And if I'm sad, I'm extremely sad. If I'm angry, I'm extremely angry. It's like this. Meanwhile, my husband, when he experiences daily life, his emotions are more like this, right? So he has a more flatter curve, but my emotions are more like this. I will take the emotions that I feel and I will use that as the driving force for achieving my financial goals. And I think that the issue is that a lot of people, when they think about the goals that they want to achieve, it's very superficial in nature. I want to buy a house because my friend bought a house, or I want to buy a new car because it'd be so cool. Extremely superficial reasons for achieving your goals, but mine are especially emotional in nature. And I want to share with you guys a few examples because I have managed to accumulate an extremely long list over the years for why I want to achieve my goals. And I've just never lost motivation because my list has become this long. And I can say that a lot of the emotions that I have felt that have driven me forward have actually stemmed from what I believe is anger. For example, when I was a kid, my dad was extremely paranoid and overbearing and overprotective because he's an immigrant from China moving here. He doesn't know anybody. The culture here is different. He doesn't speak that good English. So he was just so overprotective. He thought the world here was extremely dangerous. And I was never allowed to go out. I was pretty much locked up in the house all day. And I really wanted to be independent. Really wanted to go out and be with my friends and socialize, but I was never allowed to do that. Meanwhile, my American friends, they could have sleepovers and whatever. I've never had a sleepover before. I always complained to my dad, oh, you don't let me do this and that. And he would always just say, my house, my rules. And when you're 18 and you're legally an adult and you're free to do whatever you want, you can. But the issue with that kind of thinking is, it's not what I believed when I was a teenager and I was using this as the driving reason for me to achieve my financial goals. But it's not the moment I turn 18 on my 18th birthday, my dad's all of a sudden going to flip a switch and go you're 18 now, so I'm not going to tell you what to do. The thinking that I had back then was, even though I'm 18 and legally I can do whatever I want, still I believe that there are parents out there, and I felt like my parents would fall into this category, where if they wanted to control the kind of decisions I made in my life, they would use money as the reason. Oh, you want me to support you through college? Then you're going to have to major in this. You want me to give you money for rent? Then I'm going to have to ask you to do this in your life. I just didn't want that kind of financial manipulation that I was really afraid of. So I used that anger that I had as a kid and the fear of that kind of future for myself as a reason for achieving my financial goals back then when I was 18. And there are lots of other examples of how I would take anger and use that as motivation to do better for myself financially. And I can think of one is proving people wrong. I had a guidance counselor who told me that I would be a total failure in life if I didn't go straight to college. And I really wanted to prove her wrong, so I didn't want to go straight to college, just to also part of the reason spite her and show that I can still save money while working a minimum wage job and still move out of my parents' house and support myself financially and never ask them for money even while working on minimum wage. That was a huge driving force. She wasn't the only person I tried to prove wrong, but she's the one that still sticks out in my mind today. I had a whole list of people I wanted to prove wrong, but she's number one. Number two is I was definitely driven by revenge. I believe success is the best revenge. My success and my happiness is the best revenge. So I had an ex-boyfriend who was very emotionally and financially manipulative. One day, not one day, he did it many times, but one day my sister reported him for molesting her. And true, he did do that. And then he just went to jail. And all of a sudden, there was a restraining order that my family had against him. So I could never make contact with him. So that was the end of the relationship. But when I found out just what he did to my sister, even after I have given him everything, I gave him an allowance from even back then when I was working minimum wage, I still gave him an allowance. I wanted to do things for him. I was going to save up money to buy him a laptop. I wanted to buy him a winter coat. I wanted to give him everything because I love this guy that much. Only for him to find out he did such horrible things to my family. I took that as motivation to do better for myself. And I wanted to prove to him treating me this way is definitely his loss. I will have a lot of success one day and he will totally regret doing stuff like that to me. I use that kind of anger as another driving force, especially for buying the condo that I live in now. Saving up the down payment to buy a house is an extremely big obstacle to overcome. It's the biggest obstacle you have to overcome in order to buy a house, especially if you do not come from money or have parents who are just willing to chip in a little bit to help you out. My parents definitely did not chip in to help me out. That was also driven by anger. When we had just moved to Boston, I think 4 months in, had set up my bank to pay my rent with online bill pay, so my bank will mail the check to the management company. I had gone to Canada with my husband on a weekend getaway. And we came back from the getaway all happy, and what do you know? What do we find on our door? A notice from the constable. It's a notice to quit, saying that we hadn't paid our rent yet, and that if we don't pay blah, 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 then in 30 days they're gonna charge us $100. And I had emailed them over and over and over again after I got that notice. Didn't you get my check in the mail? Hello, did you get my check in the mail? Did you get my check in the mail? Because I definitely paid my rent. I pay all of my bills on time. There's not a single point in my life I have ever paid a bill late. So it just felt so messed up that I got this letter when I did the right thing. I paid my rent. And what do you know, a week after I sent all those emails, they cashed the check. So they had the check on their desk the whole time, but they just didn't cash it yet. Ugh, I was so angry. And after that moment, I thought to myself, why do I have to deal with this? And I took that anger that I felt and decided, you know what? We've only been in this city for 4 months so far, but we're gonna buy our own place. And we're never gonna have to deal with this kind of disrespect from a property management company. Later in that 2-year period when I lived in that apartment, they raised our rent twice. So during the first lease renewal, they raised it by $75. And of course, I was so angry when I got that notice. And then during the second lease renewal, they raised it by $50. Again. And I just felt if I didn't buy my own place, then the purchasing power of the wage that I got from my employer would just never keep up with all these increases because, they're not the only ones raising prices. Grocery stores are raising prices. Comcast was raising the price on us. But even though all of these expenses were going up that I couldn't shop around for, it's not like my employer was going hey, Annie, we're going to give you a raise just to account for the inflation, right? It was almost I'm getting, wage stagnation. I'm getting paid the same, yet all of this is going up. And I was very angry and upset that my money couldn't go as far anymore, even after just 2 years of living in Boston. So that's why I was extremely motivated to buy our own place. Now, I've discussed all the ways I was so angry and just directed it toward achieving our financial goals, but less and less I've been using anger as the reason. And more I've been using wanting to create a better future for myself and my family as the reason. So more out of love, less out of anger, because, anger isn't really healthy. I mean, sometimes anger is good. You can take anger and direct it toward creating good things for yourself in life and in society. But sometimes having all this anger isn't so good because it causes health problems. I'm trying to move away from using anger as a reason for why I want to do things, and more out of love and joy and happiness. So the reason that I've been using it much more lately is I want to provide a good life for not just me, but also the people around me that I love, and also the people who work for me. My husband, one of the things that really drove me emotionally is there was a day when his mom had called him, so my mother-in-law, and she was just crying on the phone. And because I don't speak Indonesian, I had no idea why she was crying. And after the phone call, he explained to me that she was crying because she couldn't put my sister-in-law through college because she couldn't afford it. And my husband was also crying. I just felt really bad. And this was back then when I was like working at Domino's Pizza. We weren't making that much money. I was making $8 an hour there. And I felt really bad because it's not fair, for someone to not be able to afford college. It's not the same as it is here in the US where people can just take out student loans. A lot of people in Indonesia, it's more like your family needs to have money. I worked it into the budget so that we could at least pay for her room and board those first 2 years. And then as soon as I started making more money in those last 2 years of her college, we paid for her tuition in full along with the room and boards. That was like definitely a driving reason. Another reason is like my mother-in-law, she's in her 70s right now and she's old and she has a lot of health problems. But retirement in Indonesia is just not the same as it is here in the USA. Here in the USA, we have the Social Security system and also Medicare to help with the medical expenses. It's not that great. Like Social Security, you might not get that much, right? But at least it's still something. In Indonesia, as far as I'm aware, or at least my in-laws are not getting anything. So really, that's why they rely on the children to help support them financially if they haven't done well for themselves financially. My mother-in-law still has to work when she's still in her 70s. I feel a very strong urge to help take care of them. Every year, we send a couple $1,000s back to help them financially. But, I'm only 27 years old right now. I haven't even formed my own family yet, but I have to support the older generation. So it's a very strong reason for me to want to do well financially as well. And then another thing is my husband's in school right now studying to become hopefully a professor. But one of the things that he's really good at is singing opera. He has a very, very talented voice for singing opera. A lot of people have said that when he sings opera, they feel like crying because they just feel so emotionally moved by his singing. But he has expressed to me that he's afraid to pursue this career because it's not like financially viable, starving artist kind of thing. I want to be able to make so much money from my company one day where he doesn't have to worry about finances. He's free to pursue this talent. I don't think it's fair that in the world we live in, the kind of people who are free to pursue the arts are people who come from money. And then the people who don't come from money, they kind of like just starve to death until one day they might make it big. So I want to be able to like remove finances as the reason for why he cannot pursue his dreams. And so once that's removed, well, he doesn't really have any other reason, right? I mean, all after that, it's all on him to pursue his dreams. But I want to remove that reason because I also want him to achieve his dreams. I don't want it to just be me achieving my dreams. And then also right now I have a team of 3 contractors that work with me on a regular basis to create this content for this channel, along with the content on my website. While it's not like putting all the food on their table, I mean, it puts some food on their table, right? And so I feel like a very strong sense of responsibility to provide to the people who work for me because I know what it's like to be a freelancer. While it's not like providing all of the food on their table, I've done it before where I will budget the money for how much I expect to bring in from my freelance income. And it definitely helped me save up enough money to have the down payment to buy our own place. I can only imagine that the people who work for me have budgeted in their monthly budget that they need to do this with the money that I'm about to pay them. They're going to achieve this with their money, right? So like I feel a strong sense of responsibility to create a constant income stream for those kind of people. That's why I never lose motivation. As you can see, for reasons why I want to do well financially is like this long. And every time I just have a hint of losing motivation, I think about all these reasons for why I want to achieve the things that I want to achieve. And I hope you can come up with your own reasons because the reasons for why you want to do something are extremely important. And if they're superficial reasons, I don't think you're going to be able to sustain that kind of long-term motivation. My long-term motivation for growing Annie Yang Financial Corporation, this is going to be a 20 years to 30 years goal. How am I going to maintain motivation every single day for a 20 to 30 year goal? It's extremely difficult. I've had to keep mining various sources for motivation. Motivation is something you constantly have to mine for. You have to find various sources of motivation from your daily life, daily experiences, and from the interactions that you have from people, especially like people make a passing comment about how you're not going to succeed. Instead of like letting those people punch me in the face, I kind of like just get knocked down when they punch me in the face and then I get back up and I'll say like, I'll show you, okay? So that's it for you guys. guys today. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon for notifications every time I publish a new video. And also, if you happen to be a real estate investor or you happen to work in the real estate industry, be sure to check out AnnieYangFinancial.com for more content and also my accounting services. If you want to get free consultation with me personally, you can head over to AnnieYangFinancial.com/appointments to book a free consultation there. And that's it. I will see you guys next time. Bye.